This is the ninth session. Can you tell us more about wellness and physical and mental well-being?
Well, yeah, it seems like a total detour. It doesn't seem like consistent. But several years ago, I was interviewed for another podcast on miscarriage of justice. And at the end of it, somewhere in it, it's on the net. It's to do with it's called An Irishman in Prison. And I was asked about, well, aren't you the person to solve a lot of these problems? Well, touch wood, my health is better. But after what I went through in Ireland, it's a miracle I'm alive. I'm 54. And there is this concept of what's called bounded rationality, which is how much can one do? Obviously, if you're in a position to do something, which I have been, you can do quite a lot. But then you've often got to factor that against survivability and your own survivability. No one wants to be a martyr. No one wants to jump off a cliff. It's stupid. And you shouldn't die for a cause unless, of course, the cause is so draconian that it has to be the case. So I'm trying personally to work out what I can do and what I can't do within physical, intellectual limitations, and within the structure that I have to earn a living. And so I'm back in practice in London because it's a civilized place and the courts are civilized and the people are civilized and the rule of law is still maintained. Well, that improves your wellness. Exercising quite a bit. In Dublin, after all the nonsense that went on, I had developed, truthfully, a drink problem. And that's under a measure of significant levels of control. If you're a human rights lawyer, you shouldn't have to put up with death threats all the time. Hardiman said to me, because we boasted about how many we had, he said, former Supreme Court judge, he said, but there's no one of any consequence in this country who hasn't had a death threat. But it's not funny when it happens to you. And you never know who it emanates from. And you never know what they're going to action it. And in small and closed communities, there was two recent examples I've written about them, of Maltese journalists and Hungarian journalists exposing corruption in those countries. Malta's a very small place. She walks out her door, bullet to her hand. So it's unsurprising I'm declining quite a bit of offers to go back to Dublin. I mean, yes, there are not many people who are very much on my side at the higher ranks of the system, but not everybody. And they've lost control. And in third world countries, such as Ireland, with third world structures of governance, I don't mean third world in terms of infrastructure or transportation, I mean the measure of corruption indicia among our political, banking and legal classes, then and the lack of control over, or out of control, psychotic police force, you don't know. It's becoming very dangerous to speak out. And I've represented whistleblowers, and they blow the whistle. They're like Sugarman in Ireland. They're reputationally destroyed. I've lectured in whistleblowing law at Middlesex University. They're reputationally destroyed, rendered unemployable. And you've got to think, really, that is it worth it? Or evaluate whether it's worth it. And I can't say I've been perfect in this respect either. Because if you take a stance on anything, the consequences become so extreme. And are you the appropriate person to take a stance? And when you say, you're the person to, and I think Frank Murphy from the Ballymun Law Centre said, you're the person we need to hand on the tiller in Dublin, whatever that means. No such office exists. But all well and good, but am I the person? Yes, I have the judgment experience and all of that, but am I acceptable to all sectors of the Irish community? Perhaps not. I wouldn't say I set out to be divisive, but within all of this, the question becomes, how do you do as much good as you can do? And I do a lot of good in getting people I think are innocent off and helping people in other types of legal work. And I do charitable work still. How much can you do that is good? I don't define good in any religious sense. That is proper, appropriate, ethical behaviour, whilst earning a living, maintaining a quality of life, and not engaging in your own self-sabotage or self-destruction. Now, I think anybody in the human rights industry, whatever that means, anybody who's a journalist, a dissenter, a troublemaker, a radical lawyer, a centrist lawyer, or anyone who speaks out at any level has to factor in their own personal survivability and their obligations. Now, it seems odd, but there's no question that things are so out of kilter and so fucked that those who actually speak the truth, expose corruption, are likely to be destroyed in the process of so doing. Because if the gatekeepers of the system are written about, those in authority and charge, it's not the case as much in Britain, certainly it's the case in Ireland. If those in charge are themselves tainted by criminality, stupidity, and corruption, then of course they don't like you if you point that out, and they have power. And if you fight power, and I've never been a rich person, just mea culpa, I blame myself for that in a way. If you fight power, you have to have resources, physical, mental, and financial, in order to fight power at one level. Because power has unlimited resources and unlimited brutality to fuck you up. I've represented pretty much always little people against corporations, or little people against state structures, or against the state. After a while, you've got to say to them sometimes, well, take a settlement and go. You don't have the resources to fight all of this. And how, therefore, can you do as much vocational good as you can do, whilst self-preserving, moving on, achieving more, and taking care of your physical and mental well-being? And so I've been dwelling on this a lot, and I think keeping the mind active, writing a lot helps. I think being very busy helps. But I think we're entering a culture where we forget that if you work 12 hours a day, you're not working efficiently. You should be working 4 or 5 hours a day, because the rest is entropic and unproductive time. And you'd be better going for a walk or a swim, which I do, or agreeing to your invite to do this. So if you're in any position whatsoever to do any good whatsoever, then nobody's going to think about you when you're 6 feet under.